and was home to us when she was 4 months old, and she has colitis. So occasionally
Oh,
we have to come in from a walk and have a butt wash in the sink.
I think we
So
should all do that. I think that's good practice for dogs and humans.
I need a bidet for her. But that being said, it would be fantastic. I don't know. We really want to talk about bidets? We can. It's expensive.
We can.
All of us can have bidets. I think
bidets are great. Like once you figure out that they're not for washing your feet, you never go back, right?
Oh yes, or your hands. I know people who wash their hands in bidets.
Okay, so Beth, just a little bit of housekeeping. Wendy and I are going to do an intro,
which is really short, and
really
you'll
short.
hear it. Yeah,
and then we bring you on, but you're on the whole time, so don't hesitate to react or not react, or roll your eyes, or laugh, or whatever. Okay,
and we haven't quite figured out. Like you'll be in the picture somehow. Like we're not, so we haven't figured out how to hide you. But there you are.
Okay.
So just so you know, don't pick your nose during the first 90 seconds.
No,
I won't.
Or you know what?
Or do.
Go ahead.
It happens.
All right. All right. Here we go.
So I just want to check. It's your name is Beth Torbert or Torbet?
I've been married 3 times. I've been married 3 times and have taken everybody's name. And I can't renew my passport. It's in my second husband's name. And Beth Torbert is fine. It's my maiden name.
All right. And
B-E-R-T or B-E-T?
B-E-R-T.
Torbert.
B-E-R-T. Okay, okay.
Don't you find the expression maiden name is kind of hilarious? Like the name you have?
Oh, the fact that
I was never maiden.
My name is hilarious. Like the government of Canada thinks I'm a spy at this point. It's just, it's insane.
That may be the one thing you're not. All right, here we go. There's a saying, Wendy, you probably heard it, where you say to somebody, may you live in interesting times.
Yeah, I don't know about that saying. Isn't that more of a curse?
It is. Yeah.
Doesn't it mean that you're a person? Sorry, let's start this again. Okay. Yeah.
There's a saying, Wendy, you may have heard it, where you say to somebody, may you live in interesting times.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's isn't it more of a curse? Doesn't it mean that you're living with like uncertainty and chaos rather than like peace and tranquility?
Yeah, exactly. And yet our guest this week has managed, I guess, to survive one and find the other.
Yeah, so it's Bif Naked. She is covered in tattoos, which is kind of emblematic of who she is, of this whole idea of tranquility versus the other.
Okay, I'm trying to encapsulate anybody in a brief period, but Bif Naked in particular. I'm going to throw out some things that may define her, and you will too. And we'll see how many we can list, and I will win. Okay?
Yeah, there's a few. Right. You go. You start.
Okay. Beth Torbert is that is her maiden name, is a Canadian singer and songwriter.
Maiden name. Yeah, we can talk about that. She's also an actress,
a poet.
She's a breast cancer survivor. We can talk about that because you and I both went through that.
That's a club no one wants to join. She's a vegan.
Stand-up comic.
A punk. Straight edge punk.
Straight edge. What's straight edge?
I have no idea. We'll ask her. I think it's like healthy punk.
Ah, okay. Well, she was a wife. I mean, that got a little complicated, but yeah, she's a wife.
Oh no, several times I believe. Activist.
She was adopted.
There's a whole story there.
Yeah.
Animal lover and owner.
And she used to be known as a bisexual. Now she says she's pansexual. So we can talk about that too. Which I pansexual. That means
that you want to sleep,
right?
No, you want to sleep with Zamfir, the panflutist. That's what pansexual means. Everyone knows that. Good one. I have to say, Torontonian. She's now a Torontonian by way of Vancouver.
Yeah, and she's an early riser, which was great when you were in Vancouver and had friends in Toronto, but now she's in Toronto, so we'll have to ask her whether she's still getting up early.
Yeah, and now women of ill repute, perhaps the very definition of one. Bif Naked lives in interesting times, as do we all. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Beth.
You two are amazing.
Torbert.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Yay. I feel like I've known you forever. It's so nice to see your face. I don't know. You're younger than me, but I've always been aware of you, and it's wonderful to see you. And I didn't know that your real name was Beth. But what do we call you, Beth? Biff?
You know, it sounds the same. It's a one-syllable name that starts with a B. I answer to both. And everyone calls me something different. Like my manager's kids call me Biff, but my manager's kids from his first wife call me Beth. Most of my buddies and my bandmates call me B, but Doug Fury calls me Biffy. Yeah, it's just, I answer to it all.
Did we leave anything out that we should have inserted in there that?
Oh my God. You guys are taught, it sounds like a fictional character.
Yes.
It's so funny. It's just, I guess so. But I mean, we can say that, I mean, if I were to describe either of you, you know, the list would be equally as long and as admirable. I mean, I just think that, you know, women do it all. And I think that's the truth, whether we're dishwashers or recording artists or nurses or full-time parents or whatever. I think that women really do it all. All women do.
I'm so aware of your music and your persona and everything, but reading your history, like, holy moly, like Maureen and I think we have mother's issues, but like you were born to a teenage mom in India, and then they abandoned you, and then you were adopted, and you got two moms, and then one mom, and the other mom was a missionary. Like there's a few things going on there. I had no idea what's it like with two moms.
Well, you know, it's funny because I didn't meet my birth mom until I was 21. For my 21st birthday, my parents flew me to meet her. She lived in the area of Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, and her family is from Ontario. They happened to be in India at the time of my birth, and her parents worked in a variety of different social justice organizations and charities, and their three kids went to, you know, schools in India, high schools in India. And yeah, she, like me, she was a very agreeable, lovely girl in high school, and you know, became pregnant. And so luckily my adoptive parents were working there at the time. They were missionaries to the United Church in Minnesota, and my father was, they weren't actually preachers, but my dad was a dentist, and he was responsible for doing the dentistry and dental work of all of the missionaries that would pass through Bareilly and that area. So they had adopted my older sister. Well, they had taken guardianship of my older sister a year before. My mom was volunteering in an ashram, and there was one of the babies was failing to thrive, and so she took that baby girl home, and they wound up falling in love, of course, and adopting her. And then they were pegged as suckers, as my father would retell the story. And the church, or I guess a colleague perhaps of my biological grandparents, sent them a letter saying there's going to be a baby born in June, and the family is looking for adoptive family to take the baby. And my parents just said, my dad always said, if the kid's not ugly, we'll take the kid, you know.
Well, thank goodness.
And he was a big jokester, but luckily, you know, it all worked out. And the story to me is very interesting. Maybe perhaps a lot of adoptive stories are the same. My parents didn't want to meet my birth mom. They felt that it would bias them as I grew up, and they would always compare me or anything like that. And my birth mom, I guess, you know, she was so young. She was 16 at the time, and I'm sure she didn't have much choice at that point in her life. And so I never, you know, met her, but I dreamt about her as an adolescent, as a kid and as an adolescent. I thought Sophia Loren was my mom, because my mother was she was loving and lovely and gracious, but my parents didn't drink alcohol. They were very, they had a very austere life and lifestyle. And my mother was very modest and shy, and that was absolutely 100% not what I was. I was insane, and I loved glamour and anything funny, and I was in performing arts as a kid, and So I was convinced my birth mom would give me more insight into why I thought Sophia Loren was my mom. And so I finally met her when I was 21.
And she did. She was glamorous and out there.
She is hilarious. She's very, very sweet and funny. And she had children, and my sister, her daughter, my sister, always says to me, "You do that just like mom. You say that just like mom." And I love hearing that because it's so interesting to me. But there are also so many mannerisms and idiosyncrasies that I have inherited from my mom. So I like being able to discern what is environmental and what is genetic, and it's fun. It just is a fun and interesting thing, and I love obviously both of them so much. My mom is my mom, and my birth mom is my mom too. It's been a real blessing. I feel very lucky.
You went down, for lack of a better term, you went down a hell of a rabbit hole around that same time, I guess, in your late teens and early 20s, and different environments, sexual assault, drug addiction, just basically everybody's nightmare for their child or for themselves, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you came out of it with all this creativity intact and the way to express it. Found many ways to express it, as we covered off in the intro. Do you think that that experience was necessary or a conduit to finding your voice and let's go with your voice?
I never wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a ballerina. Being in ballet as a little kid, one of my primary female role models was my ballet teacher. And so as a child, that's, kind of what I fantasized for myself. And then as time went on and getting into school plays and all of that and going into the fine arts programs, I really wanted to be in acting or theater. It never occurred to me in a million years that I wanted to be a singer. I had no interest in it. I mean, like every other kid on my block, I had piano lessons, but I wasn't really that interested in practicing. I was much more interested in boys. And by the time I was 17, smoking and, drinking beer under the hockey bleachers with all my friends, like every other self-respecting prairie kid. And I think that, I got into a band by accident in my first year of university. And, that turned out to be the perfect role for me as a performing artist. It enabled me to utilize my poetry that I had already been writing, much of it garbage, of course, like every other dramatic girl. It was very garbagey, but I was able to use it and utilize it as lyrics. And, I got to perform on stage, which was my love of the theater. And, at the time I was an alto. I'm convinced everyone can sing because I could with no lessons. And, the style of music that we were doing didn't require me to be an opera singer, and it didn't demand that I was perfect. I just kind of developed my own way of doing things, and our band moved to Vancouver after flipping a coin in Winnipeg, deciding whether we would go to Toronto or Vancouver, like all our friends. Vancouver was the choice, and we went there. And I was, of course, married. Of course, I was when I was 19 to my drummer, who was, deliciously handsome and tall. And, he worked for Greenpeace and he was an activist, and it was just all the wonderful things that I fell in love with. And of course, that went terribly once he got a girlfriend who was younger than me. If I'm 20, she was like 18. So that was like the worst. And I got a new boyfriend in Vancouver. And like a lot of people, I think, in the Pacific Northwest in the 90s, I can't speak to why, but I had never tried any drugs hardly in my life, but decided it would be important for my life story that I try heroin. And
Ooh.
the day after I tried heroin for the first time, I called my mother on the telephone and I said, Mom, I did it. I tried dope. I tried smack, ha ha ha, or whatever reason I had for telling her that. And she just very typically said, well, Beth, get it out of your system so you can get on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that was literally, you know, and she meant it. And she was right. And so I took it to heart for sure. And I, you know, flirted with it and, you know, messed around with it for around half a year. And there was a morning that I woke up and I knew I could never, ever, ever do it again.
Wow.
I just thought, you know, if I do this one more time, I will just absolutely never, ever recover from this. And as difficult as it was, I just never did it again and threw myself into my music. And I don't know if it contributed to my music, but what it did contribute to was my being very cautious when it came to substances. And I found that alcohol, I always was an easy drunk, much to every boy's delight. You know, 1 tablespoon of beer and I'm, you know, then I'm drinking 17 amaretto shooters. It just always affected my judgment. And I knew that. And I just thought, you know, I can't safely drink any alcohol because as soon as my judgment is impaired in any way, I'm either going to, you know, do drugs again, or I'm going to wake up in Italy with married, or like, who knows what I'm going to get myself into. And so for me, it was just really wanting to protect myself and to be professional, you know, especially all these gigs that started happening when I was in my band, you know, even before I turned into a solo artist. I just knew if I wanted to be able to sing every night, I couldn't drink alcohol because once I have a little alcohol, I start talking and telling jokes and laughing, and you know, ultimately I will lose my voice. So for me, it was a combination of wanting to protect myself and wanting to remain professional and protect my instrument. Straight edge, it was a bit of a socio-political movement in a way. The kids that were straight edge in punk rock meant that they absolutely did not drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, you know, do drugs, you know, and it was almost like a political choice. It was a very, very deliberate thing. And that really resonated with me. It was a good fit for me. And a lot of my heroes in music were straight edge at that time. And that's why it worked for me.
You were a big deal. Like you, not that you're not now.
Not that you're not now.
But you played with a lot of big bands, or at least names that, you know, me as an old person is familiar with, the Foo Fighters and Green Day and Billy Idol, which goes back like 1,000 years. But I was really struck about reading like now it doesn't seem to be as big a deal, but when you were starting in punk, there weren't very many women. And now hearing you talk about alcohol and your parents and how you were an easy drunk, it all sort of makes sense. But I was really, your choice not to drink, but I was really struck by, you worked, a quote of you saying you worked so hard in life to be respected, that you were surrounded mostly by dudes, that there weren't a lot of women in punk in those days, and that you felt that you had to be twice as good to be, you know, to be considered half as good. Like, is it different now? Like now that you are successful, you have done so much, but I'm just wondering, it was obviously really difficult for you. Is it better now for women?
It's hard to say because I think that, you know, that was basically a reflection of all the societal norms, whether you are, you know, working in a hospital or whether you're sharing a rock bill with all these male bands. You know, I think that the same is true for doctors or lawyers or politicians. You know, to be in a world, to live in a world that is dominated by the male agenda is, you know, it is what it is, and it is our society and the world that we live in. I think for all women, you know, we do fight for respect, and yes, we fight for equality in general. So with being in a rock and roll job, I never took it personally that I had to fight for respect or, of my peers. It was a pleasure, really, and it still is now, especially now that I'm, getting older, which is a very different thing indeed. In rock music, it's kind of hilarious. I think getting older is very hilarious, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this at any age. When I turned 30, I told my mother, I don't feel any different, Mom, than when I was 25. I can't believe it. And she laughed and said, imagine being my age, dear. We all feel like we're 25 inside, all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And that was a revelation. That was an epiphany for me. And I thought, oh, okay, that's why all my buddies who are in their 50s still skateboard. And maybe the baby boomers weren't skateboarders and that's why they're not skateboarding. But all the Generation X guys, are still, dyeing their hair black and skateboarding and listening to Fishbone. And it's actually very funny to me. And I love it. And I love having to fight for equality as a woman and now as an older person, because not only sexism is rampant, but ageism. And I think it's an interesting time that we live in for sure, but it keeps getting interesting. I think that I love getting older. I love being in my 50s. I'm absolutely grateful every single day that not only did I survive what I did, but I keep surviving. All of us do.
Yeah.
And, I think that it's a very special time in the history of the world. I think there's a lot that's going very badly, but it's motivating for people to make things right. And I think that's inspiring.
Let's because this is a cheerful topic. Let's talk about brushes with mortality, because the three of us have all looked the, specter of death in the eye socket. And it changes you. And you not only are you a breast cancer survivor, I don't like the term survivor, but anyway, that's what we are.
You were a victim.
Or no, I don't victimly, I like even less, but you've also had heart issues and at a young age. I mean, you were diagnosed in your late 30s with breast cancer, and I wasn't much older. Wendy and I both the same year, and because we do everything together, it's really adorable. But once you've been through that, it changes you, and maybe for the better. To what you were just saying earlier, so I'm not so much grateful, but aware that TikTok, don't waste the time you have.
Oh, absolutely. And congratulations to both of you also. I mean, I think that for me, the education I went through having as a breast cancer patient and becoming a volunteer and a peer support volunteer, I think that if I did not have breast cancer, I would not have come into my volunteering position. So for me, I feel absolutely blessed that I did go through the system as a patient. I love having the lived experience of chemotherapy and radiation, and then the 10 years that follow it, that you have residual symptoms that no one can explain, or things that happen and befall women and families who experience cancer of any kind. It's just, for me, it was the best education I could have gotten in life, because my knowledge that I carry with me, just surrounding the medical system in Canada, surrounding many of my experiences with oncology nurses and how they all chose to be in oncology. Same with palliative care. I mean, I wouldn't have become a palliative care volunteer had I not been a patient. And
I just sort of reject the has it changed your life thing. And I, like so many people in the system, were trying to get me to say, like, I'm a new person. I've realized the value of life. And I was like, screw off. Like, I knew the value of life before, but it does change you. So I don't know why I rejected it as much as I did. I was particularly struck by you saying that when you first were diagnosed that you were like, okay, I'm going to step back, and you knew that that was a sign that something was wrong. And I had this weird feeling when I when I was first diagnosed and having to make decisions about go this way, go that way. Once those decisions were made, it was like I don't have to make any decisions. I can just hide out in bed. I don't have to do, and it was really weird seeing you express that. And I guess I'm realizing now that my reaction to a lot of what happened during the breast cancer thing, and I survived, which makes me this camp versus that camp, was perhaps not appropriate. So good for you.
Yeah.
But it is appropriate. But it absolutely is appropriate. And there are so many, you're entitled to that. You are. And you're entitled to it then. And the thing about it is a pressure, not only from society, but from other patients, from the nurses, from our families, even our own self-pressure to be positive and to be grateful, and and also people who are well-meaning, who love us and are around us. They do often make statements like, "Well, at least you have your hair back," or "Well, at least you survived," or "Well," and it's kind of, even though it's unintended, it can be dismissive. And I mean, I think that I've never met a patient that didn't say, shut up to anyone telling them to stay positive. Positivity is a key, and it's the truth. We are entitled to our feelings. Positivity is a spectrum, just like anything else. And I think that it affects cancer treatment, and the therapies that come with it affect our brains. They affect us on a cellular level, and we get to feel however we want to feel, and it changes, and it changes every day, and it still changes. As you were mentioning, even the word survivor, it is a pressure in a way, because it
So
does
you have that
imply.
tattoo, right? Don't you have
Yes.
that tattoo, survivor? Like we don't see any, like normally all the pictures of you're all like tatted up, and like way before everybody was getting, the full sleeve and whatever. You were like 30 years ago you were getting, but now we don't see any, but on your arm it says survivor.
Which I had before I was ever diagnosed.
Wow.
And
so let it be written, so let it be done.
Yeah, and for me, survivor was a nod to all the things I had felt I had done. And it was, when I got that tattoo, I was very angry. I was incredibly angry at a certain situation in my life. I felt like I had, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to encapsulate it all quickly, but it was
Take your time.
It was a response that I had to feeling disenfranchised in many ways, by men, by the music business, by the romantic partners, whatever the case. And I really I love language. I love powerful words. And I thought, no matter how disempowered I can feel from time to time. I mean, we can feel disempowered from so many things, from the bank teller. We can have those days where we just, our vulnerabilities come bubbling to the surface, and they can be from things 10 years ago, and just one, thing. It's just that day, that's what a bad day is about. And we survive it. And every day, we're not promised anything, but if we have a new day, we get to write how that day goes for us, as much as we can. We get to write we write our own story, and we choose how we feel. And I mean, it's easy to say to any breast cancer patient, or any cancer patient, or any, stroke survivor, or any, it's easy to say, well, stay positive. That's a tall order sometimes, because there are always going to be good days and bad days for everyone. And I, because I'm a woman, I'm very biased. So I will always say, especially women, but which is not fair to everybody else. but that's my lived experience. So that's what I choose to say. I think it's hard being a person. It is hard being a person in this world. And every day we, kind of navigate it somewhat successfully and get to the end of the day in our pajamas and finally, get in our bed. It's okay to exhale and go, I'm grateful I made it through. That's it. It can be anything, and it's different for everybody. I don't know. I think that cancer for sure is a wake-up call for people, just like a car accident. Sometimes it does really force us to look at our lives and to go, you know, my life is kind of, it, I guess, indescribably stressful. There's always a simmering undercurrent of pressure people have. It's exacerbated when we go through something like cancer or even the pandemic. It exacerbated and amplified what is. And so that's, it's an opportunity often for us to take a look at our lives and reprioritize.
People ask you a lot about your tattoos because, as we observed earlier, you had them before everybody else did. And I don't have any tattoos. When did you have any tattoos?
Just my breast cancer tattoos.
Oh yeah, the radiation.
Yeah,
I don't think they really count.
My daughter does, though. I mean, she's obviously younger. And I think tattoos are important. When I was a kid growing up, anyone who got a tattoo was like, oh my God, you might as well go to the downtown east side and do heroin like Biff. Briefly, very briefly.
But my son also has tattoos. So he's 24, same age as Wendy's daughter. And he's a law student and but he's also an English major. And so he has literary quotes. And every year he, for his birthday, he asks for money to get a new one.
And they mean something.
He's telling
really important. They've meant something to you.
He's telling a story. Yeah. Is that what started you? Because it sounds like you're sort of giving an account of your life and experiences printed on your body.
Absolutely. I've always been, and I think that for me and my girlfriends, particularly back in our 20s, it was a rebellion for sure, because it was mostly guys or convicts that had tattoos, or sailors that had tattoos. And, for us to have tattoos for sure was a statement and a rebellion. But I think more than that, it was armor in a way, because it did protect you from people approaching you. It was intimidating in a way. Even if you had a little Hello Kitty or a cardinal, like my girlfriend Patsy has cardinals, I think that eventually it came into fashion, and now it's really not considered a big deal. I mean, when I was 24 years old, there were no tattoo artists that would tattoo your face or your hands. And now I see girls on Instagram, they have face tattoos and they have big neck tattoos, and they're very, they're very eloquent speakers and feminine, and it's just like, wow, we would never get neck tattoos. And now, of course, I'm, as much as I always fantasize about having knuckle tattoos, I don't have any. And I have no tattoos on my legs. And I mean, we were just shooting the documentary in Mexico, and all I see is girls with tattoos all over their legs.
Yeah, it's so great that it's changed so much. I mean, I remember I had what I thought was a leather skirt, but it was actually vinyl, and it was great for sliding down the hill. But then all the dye would come off, and you could see like imprints of my behind through the skirt. But I thought it was the coolest skirt to wear, not just for sliding, but so cool. And then I was told that it was inappropriate, and that was like, let alone a tattoo, a short skirt made out of fake leather, and not because of the butt prints on the back. It was, so there's been a lot of good change that I think people should focus on.
Yes, I agree.
Biff, what's this documentary in Mexico?
So we shot in Paris in November, and the year before we shot a tour that I had done with Buck Cherry across Canada. And we're going to be shooting all summer, and then we're going to Europe again for concerts and very possibly to India. And so I am very fortunate that anyone wanted to do a documentary about me. And so my manager of 31 years, Peter, finally accepted a suggestion of a documentary, and we are working with a company, it's Electric Panda, and through our original friends in Triton Films, and of course, it's just incredible. It's very humbling, and it's not my vision. It's not.
Yeah.
It's Jennifer Abbott is the director, and who is an amazing, incredible, fierce feminist and Buddhist. And you might know Jennifer from The Corporation, which was a very famous documentary. I encourage you, if you haven't seen it, to watch a documentary called The Magnitude of All Things. And she explores the parallels between her sister's breast cancer and losing her sister, to climate grief. And you cannot imagine how meaningful and beautiful this documentary is. Especially the two of you, I encourage you to watch this and seek it out. And Jennifer Abbott is an award-winning director. And the fact that I have the opportunity to work with this amazing human being, but yes, a female director was imperative for me. And the lens with which she sees the world is phenomenal. So to be, having this documentary basically through her lens is just incredible. I feel very, very fortunate to be working with her.
You have a lot to say. And we do have to wrap up in a minute.
No, I just want to know what the title. Do you have a title?
Not yet. I think they have a working title, but we're still shooting. We still have a lot to shoot, and I think that you keep your eyes peeled for it.
We will. We absolutely will.
Channel, but I think that we'll be shooting for another year.
I think it's so great because you obviously have a lot to say and your story is so interesting. I just have one more question, and it's trivial. Why are you so in love with Kiss? I was trying to, that's my generation. It was when I was, I don't know, in early high school, and I couldn't even remember their songs. Like Queen, I remember.
Beth.
And then I went back, and it's all these songs that they're so familiar. But you're obsessed with Kiss, I think, or you were. Are you still? And what is it?
So my husband was a Kiss fanatic. He loves Kiss. He has loved Kiss since he was 5 years old. And so when I was still living with him, I wanted to honor that part of his life and his personality, and basically encouraged putting all of the Kiss figurines throughout my home. And he painted this mural on my dining room wall, which was incredible. Actually, it was amazing. But yeah, I love Kiss, like everybody loves Kiss. But my husband, my third husband, was an absolute Kiss fanatic. He's a collector of Kiss and a fanatic of Kiss. So that's where that connection comes in.
But I can see it because the theatricality, and was coupled with catchy rhythms. So, I mean, Kiss never pretended.
It's amazing. They're amazing songwriters. They're very underrated, and they worked a lot with Desmond Child. Of whom I'm a big fan too. So it's cool. They're a great band.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. Look at the time. Beth, you're really inspiring. Like, you really are, and so authentic, and it's been such a pleasure to talk with you.
And I can say the same for both of you. I am very honored to be on your wonderful show, and I hope we can talk again.
I'm sure we will. We'll watch for the documentary, and we have some homework to do.
Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you, Biff. Lovely to meet you. And nice nails. Ooh, no tattoos, but nice nails.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be watching for the documentary and everything else. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Right. Thank you, Beth.
Oh, thank you.
Just
You guys
stopped
are amazing.
recording. Yeah,
You guys
this is.
Yeah, so it's
We'll
kind
keep
of
an
over
eye
now.
out. We'll keep an eye out for whatever transpires in your life next, and make sure that we plug this in at the right time. But and belated welcome to Toronto. It's nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I love it here. I just love it.
Good.
I've been here for 4 years. I just love it.
Good.
Yeah,
All right,
Toronto's getting weird, but it's a wonderful, wonderful city. So it's I hope it figures out its shit and the TTC and everything is
Oh God, yeah.
is okay. Yeah, it's still small and it doesn't affect a lot of people. So it's finally getting dealt with. But we didn't even talk about racial equality and what happens.
We've
to poor
got.
people and
I mean,
stuff. There's so much, but
we'll be
anyway,
back.
it's so lovely to meet you. And so we're gonna say goodbye, and then we're gonna talk about how great you are.
We kick you out now, and we sort of do a little epilogue after that.
Okay.
So,
and then we'll let you know when it's gonna go.
We will.
Yeah.
Or we'll let Eric or whatever.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Take good care.
Lovely to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
No, she can't go. I know. It's like saying goodbye and walking to the car with somebody. I think she's gone here.
Oh, she's gone. Oh, she's frozen, but she's gone.
She's frozen. Yeah, I've got to start again.
Oh, we didn't take a picture.
But we have video, so we can do screen grab. No problem. I had not met Beth before, which is surprising considering, but her music was never something that was played on the stations that I worked at. So our paths never crossed. She is not at all what I thought she was going to be like.
She is, she's quite extraordinary. The music style is one thing, but it's her brain and the way that she thinks about things and the way that she survived all of the crap that was thrown at her. It's kind of unbelievable that she explored things the way that she did and survived. She is a survivor. I love that.
This is exactly, I thought she was going to be, given her appearance, and I've heard her interviewed and seen her interview, but given her appearance and given her past, I thought she was going to be a lot tougher. Thought she would have a harder shell. I thought she'd be, I don't know if I thought she'd be belligerent, but I thought she would just be a lot tougher. And instead, she's just this kind, shining, Zen-like, honest, down-to-earth, lovely person. So,
yeah,
wow.
I asked about the kiss thing at the end, and she said that she's not living with the third husband anymore. So change is obviously a big part of, she wants life to be better, and because she's been through so much, the idea of change doesn't scare her. So it's I think she was kind of inspiring.
Yeah, exactly. As almost everybody we talked to, but she was surprising and inspiring, and we're gonna have to watch for this documentary. That sounds amazing. They're going full bore. If they're spending a couple of years to do this, no title yet, but we will keep you posted. If you got a tattoo, what would you get, and where would you put it if you had to? You have to.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because the breast cancer thing that I'm stuck in a certain way of thinking. Screw you! I don't need cancer to realize I love life. I don't need a tattoo. And yet everybody that I love has a tattoo, and it seems to mean a lot to them. So I don't know. I think it's like I don't get manicures. I just can't be bothered going and sitting somewhere for 4 hours because I get bored.
That's probably true. Your husband has tattoos. He's got very cool tattoos. He's got tattoos like Ronan does. He has quotes and
he's afraid of needles. So
really?
So I think somehow people get over that. And my daughter's tattoos mean a lot to her. But I have no plans, but I probably should get one.
No. You do whatever you want. Not having a tattoo is a statement. I have a brilliant idea. I'm going to get dolphins done diving in the lower part of my back.
Like a tramp stamp? That'd be really cool.
Is that what someone's done that before? Okay. Well, never mind. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too.